I just want to introduce Marc real quick. Marc is an amazing producer and engineer. He's worked with Weezer, Bad Religion, Social Distortion. Right now he's mixing the Motion City soundtrack. Yeah. He's a favorite of ours, so without further ado, let's let him get right into it. Take over, Marc.
Thanks, Justin. How's everybody? Good? Yay. All right. The way I usually like to do things like this, I find people get the most benefit is if you know why I did it. So I'm going to play the song, show a couple things, and then just go ahead and start firing away so we can all learn something together. Cool? Yeah. All right, bitchin'. All right, so this is off the new Motion City soundtrack record. It's super raw. I'll give a little explanation about the challenges I had with it. Their last studio record they did it with Mark Hoppus and Andy Wallace mixed it. And it was a super polished record because they got picked up by Columbia. They were on Epitaph, and if you guys know who Epitaph are, they're like, one of the biggest indie labels in the world, do a lot of punk and stuff. So Columbia pushed them to be a little bit more polished, and the record came out, and I think they were happy with it, and I don't want to speak for them, but this record, they said, let's do the complete opposite, and everybody tells us how great we are live, so we're going to track this whole record live and then overdub on top of it. So they would get like the feeling right when they played it, and then they would go in and like add extra guitars and Justin would go back and do his vocal. So for me, my challenge was noise and making it sound live. Like I wanted to just sound like some guys playing in a garage, and the drums are so loud that like they're just bouncing off everything, and the guitars are loud. I just wanted to sound loud. So I'll kind of break it out, and we'll solo the drums and before, and then I'll kick in the after, so you guys can kind of hear it, and then I'll go through it one thing at a time. So this is going into the chorus. Just listen to that black of black, right, when it goes in. Right? And of course this is going to be a level change, but you'll get the idea. Right? So we'll go through kind of like what I did. So we got some overheads, so we'll solo these guys. This is what I got delivered. So one thing, do you guys find yourself a lot like just carving the shit out of your overheads and like getting rid of like all the low end and all that stuff? Do you guys find yourself doing that? Yeah, some maybe, some not, sometimes. So one of the things like that I've learned over my career is, I used to do that and just try to grab cymbals, but then I can't get the drums to like stick together, if that makes sense. So what I try to do is I EQ the overheads to make it sound like drums. A lot of people get rid of all this stuff down here. I'm adding like shitloads of 100 hertz. So I'll show you kind of what that does. You hear the snare? I mean, this is like no snare. You know what I mean? Like this is one overhead mic, but the snare comes from everywhere. Even on a live record, if it wasn't isolated enough, the guitar or bass amp or the singer, they were all in the same room. Like I've taken snare sounds from guitar mics before, and just how you EQ everything and make it all work together, get it right. I can't stress the overheads making them slam by themselves. So let's go on this adventure together. You hear how it's starting to pop more. Let me get a loop. Is that helpful to you guys? Like seeing how I made the decision? Yeah? Does anybody have any questions about why I did something that I just did right there? No questions. So I'm an amazing teacher. That's what I'm learning. Yeah, there we go.
We're just listening in those low mids. What were you looking for right now?
Okay, so like That's an excellent question. So let's go through that again. When I'm down here, I'm really trying to find like the balls of the snare, right? Because when you mic a snare, right, and you're this close to a snare, how often are our heads that close to a snare drum, right? So they don't sound like that. They sound more like you're further away, and of course the overheads are further away, so it sounds more like a snare, okay? So I try to get that beef of the snare in these overheads. And then what I did was, if you notice when I turned up right around 3K, the cymbals started to get clanky, right? But the snare started to get more defined. So I turned it up till I heard the clankiness, and then I turned it down till I stopped hearing the clankiness, because that way I'm gonna get a little bit more definition out of the skin of the snare. And then of course, this is just for brightness, right? And then down here, this honky sound, I'll show it again. It's like usually around 800 hertz, somewhere around in this area, I always find something I don't like about overheads. See, even from here to here, this is worse than this. I'll show it again. Do you hear it where it starts to go like, right? So I don't really need that, but I don't need to get rid of all of it, right? Because it's not like killing us. So I'm just scooping a little bit out. And even let's try to do the level match so we don't, you guys know about that little thing, right? Anything louder always sounds better. Doesn't matter if it's better or worse, right? So let's level match it. So we all agree that at least by this meter, it's similar. So I'll keep it in and bypass. You guys hear that frequency now? That, right? So those are the kind of things I try to look for, is these little subtle things that when I kick it in, I'm like, yeah, I did make it better. I didn't make it worse. And you guys can take pictures of all this stuff and go home and replicate exactly this EQ, and it's not going to be right for your source. Learn from the concepts, but don't do the copy thing. By all means, do it so you learn, right? But don't just go, oh, that's how I EQ an overhead. Because what if we had overheads that were recorded with like coals, right? The ribbons, right? They're dark as shit. If I put this thing on coals, that's not gonna work. It's gonna be, something way brighter. I'll probably max it out, go 15 dB, and probably a lot of mids, cutting a lot of low mids, because it's already got enough of that shit in there. So, really use your ears. But by all means, use this as a learning tool. And, compression, so a lot of people like compress, and I like compression, don't get me wrong. However, watch what happens when we just start to add a little bit of compression on here. They'll just start to crap out. So that's like, what, 3 dB? Now the whoosh of the cymbal, right, is now kind of irritating, and now the snare is not punchy anymore. And remember, based on my philosophy for this song was, I'm trying to pull the drums out of the overheads. So why would I smash them back into the overheads, right? So it all works together. So this is the kick they gave me. And I honestly, I don't know why I did it this way. I usually don't do it this way. I usually have all my samples on like individual tracks, but for some reason I just stuck them all in here and just did a mix blend. Do you guys know how this plugin works? People that use Trigger? Yeah? Okay. So if for those of you who don't, this is like a mix blend, so how much of the original signal versus the samples, and then these are the individual sample levels. So we'll go through. So that's what I got, and then this is what I turned it into. So, have you ever heard people say things like, don't put reverb on bass and don't put reverb on kick drums, right? Have you guys heard that like a million times? Like, I totally put it all over everything. Because when you're in a room, right, like right now, is the room getting rid of the bass? No. I mean, there's an EQ curve in here naturally, whatever this room is, right? But like what tricks your brain? What makes things loud, okay? We are built with already preconceived notions of what we think is loud based on what we learn in life. So what's louder at the same volume, okay, played at the same volume, a flute or a chainsaw? Which one's louder? The chainsaw, just because we think it's fucking louder. Doesn't mean it actually is, okay? But we think it is because we know a chainsaw is loud. All right, so a canyon, when something's loud and it goes wah, 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 and it just keeps going, right, isn't any louder than what you think it is, and you just know it's louder because it has to be echoing off something in the room, so your brain goes, oh, it must be loud, right? So why not put reverb on kick drums? Because a kick drum to sound loud is echo. It's not, you know, it's not just little hit. It's like the echo is what makes you think it's loud. So I added in, I actually really like the Chrysler Algae samples for trigger. They have like that really good attack on them. So basically I put a little bit of the attack in there, and then this is a Tom Lord LG kick that I got from a friend of mine years ago, and that's the one that's really doing what we're looking for. Is like what we're looking for. So all these together, right? And then we're kind of in the Queen territory. You guys know what I'm referencing, right? Yeah, okay. I'm just making sure. Even though, because I was thinking, well, those are stomps. I wonder if they think I'm crazy. But the same idea, right? And okay, so let's use that as an example. What makes that sound so huge is the reverb, not that, right? Listen to this and hear. It's like a joke. But when you get the reverb and all the ambience, that's what creates that illusion. Okay, so then, and then it looks like what? I put a little bit more on the top just to give it some more. I don't mess around with kick drums too much unless there's like some low-mid problems. Like I said, the more you compress stuff, the smaller it gets. I might have a kick drum that is untouched, and then I might duplicate it for like a parallel thing and beat the shit out of that thing. There's a purpose for it. But other than that, I generally don't really mess around with kick drums too much. So right now, this is, so we can listen. This will be kick and overheads. Right? That's actually a pretty great drum sound right there. Snare, so this is the snare they gave me. I'll keep doing the way I'm going. If you go in and look, you see how these are clipped out, right? When they recorded, they were, and I think it's awesome, they were peaking the console, which gives it even more energy, more of that just like, oh my God, I'm beating the shit out of this drum. And as you guys know, it's hard to get that sound once you're in the digital realm, but they're getting better at plugins and faking it. So this is what I got delivered. That's what I turned it into. So you want me to do the thing that I did on the overheads? Is that helpful for you guys? Like, so you hear what I hear? Whenever I do filters, what I do is and it's hard for me because I'm kind of behind the speakers. I know what I did in this song, so I have that benefit. But usually when I do filters, and you guys may have or not heard of this, is keep rolling it up until you hear it and then back it off, right? So go until you hear the filter and then cut it back, because all that shit you don't need anyways. So we'll do that with a snare. Right? You can kind of hear it once it gets up to 200. So I'll probably dial it back down to here. Did you hear the bottom just come back a little bit more? Or at least I heard it back here. Okay, so then the next thing is find the That's, yeah, like right there is like awful. Right? Now I need that stick, right, coming back to the snare. And I'll show you, I'll just kind of move it around so you guys hear it, because all our ears will peak up right around the same area. Right. So it sounded good up here, right? But I still have another band. So that's why I stopped here, is because, oh, I have another band. I can add more top end, so I'm looking for more of that mid-range kind of sound. and that's probably a little too much. Right? God, I make it look so easy. No. And then after that, I've got a pull tech.
Wait, what about the gating?
Oh, did I gate it? Oh, I mean, there's no big trick for the gating. A lot of times I won't gate snares because you start to get that, like thing. But in this song, and we'll go over that, there's a loop that goes, so I tried to match the gate to that extra fake snare they put in there. And I usually never gate it, at least snares. When I do gate, 100, what the range on a gate is, right? So like how much you're hearing. So I usually keep the range kind of high because it's more just kind of setting it back from the hi-hat, not getting rid of it completely. Because I really do think that bleed is so important for the dots to connect, So I probably did something like that. And then I put a pull tech on, gave it some more beef, and then some more 3K. I don't know why, probably because I thought it would be cool. Yeah, so this is just the SSL, right? And it looks like I'm clipping it, which probably wasn't a conscious decision to do, but I totally am like the kind of guy, like, if it doesn't sound bad, like, why change it, because this might be doing some more digital clipping on the snare that might affect something in a really cool way that if we back it down, it might not sound as good. So I didn't really mess with anything there. So basically, it just looks like I was giving it more beef and more mid. And then what did I do here? And then I cut some more here. So then if we listen to kick, snare, and overhead, sounds pretty good. So then the next snare is, and I do this a lot, is it's an exact replica. They didn't give me samples like that they took, so I literally went in and just grabbed a snare like this, copied it, and then pasted it on every hit. So this is their snare drum because, I don't ever fully replace stuff unless it's like really, really like I can't make something happen to it. And even if that happens, I'll try to make my own samples from room mics or overheads or whatever, and just try to make it work because, that's the sound they wanted. Like, I got to respect them, right? Like, it doesn't matter what I think. They're giving it to me to go make this, what I, created, even better than I could have thought of, right? So you got to take what they give you and do the best you can to keep their thing intact. But, take liberties within that. I know that sounds kind of both ways, but so you can even hear it. That little click is probably like a hi-hat. There's a closed hi-hat section, and I took it from that. So together, these two, well, let's see what I did. Oh, so I compressed this one. I didn't compress the normal one. It's the same EQ that we had on the first one. How much compression? Like 3 dBs. And then I put a decapitator on it. Love, love, love the Sound Toy stuff. It just sounds a little more aggressive and it gets a little bit more of that ting sound. That's the same EQ as that one, and that's the same EQ as that one. So I'm just using it to give it like more impact and like probably a thicker sound. So these are the two together. See what do you guys hear what I'm using that for? That ring sound, that ding, right? And then I have another sample here. This snare I recorded, my old studio was at Sound City in LA before it closed down. This is a snare I recorded there. This is a snare I've had forever. I just call it the Big S. And then another one of those Chris Lord-Alge ones, probably for clarity. So this is the super sampled one. So I'll go one at a time. This is the Chris Lord Algae one. I was just looking for that kind of high-end attack. This one, I love it. It's just like a great room sound. It's just a great, like kind of really far in the background snare that I have. And then this is a Sound City mono room mic that I recorded. So together, and then we got a snare bottom. So let's see what I did with the bottom. Yeah. Tried to just get more brightness out of it. In all honesty, I could probably take this thing out and we would never know. But I kept it for some reason. And then reverbs. So with reverbs and things, unless you're going for like super ethereal, kind of like you're existing in this like pool, I usually try to time them to the songs. Like if you notice, like it's like kick, kick, decay, and then right when the snare hits, it's like the decay's gone for the kick drum, right? And then the snare carries until the next kick hit. So it's like this constant like, you know, jumping kind of motion. Right? You see what I mean? So that's kind of the way I use the reverb. And then hi-hat. Oh, this is interesting. This might be cool. So because it's up the middle, whenever I have a hi-hat going up the middle, I'm probably using it for part of the snare sound. So I rolled off all the high end, all the low, and that mid-range sound, because I don't need more hi-hat. There's plenty in the overheads. So I use this just as part of more of that mid-range kind of sound. Let's see. Yeah. Kind of gives it a little bit more of that honky kind of cool sound. Let's go down toms. Oh, toms, I always clean out the toms. Then I just opened it up when he starts to play the toms. You know, I don't get like meticulous with it. It's just like open them up when they play, shut them down when they're not playing. Yeah, pretty typical, just added some top. I thought they sounded fine already. You know, and again, the kind of record we're making is like, we're not trying to make that like hyperactive, like better than real life, right? We're just trying to make real life better. So I'm not gonna go in there and like carve out and do crazy stuff. And then the room mics. So this is what we got. Again, going back to like adding shitloads of 50 hertz because the kick drum's in that room, right? Well, I don't hear the kick drum the way I want to hear it. So I just put tons of 50 hertz in there and that's it. And I think it sounds better, so we'll, right? That's all like kind of tinny and really mid-rangey. That's all it needs. And then I put reverbs on it because you want to give it more space. Because room mics, like this room doesn't sound very ambient, right? And yeah, we can throw a compressor on there to pull out more ambience, but then what are you gonna get? That, you know, that wispy, you can't use them. So I put the decapitator on after that to probably just create some weird, crazy distortion sound. Oh, and did you guys saw that, right? On that ticket, right? Like, it's all about moments. Like, that's what mixing is like, you create these little moments that, like, excite people. Like, it's not a game of subtleties, right? It's not like I'm gonna test it out, right? Like, fucking make it way louder than you should, and the mastering guy will figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, like, Your job is to make an event, make it happen, okay, and create some kind of excitement. And then let's talk about my drum bus. So I'll bypass. And again, we're going to lose level and try to not let that fool you. I didn't use any parallel compression on this. I just used a little bit of some SSL. So this is with it. Feels a little closer to you, right? But you can see there's like, what, 2-3 dBs? Maybe it taps 4 on the loudest hits. It's just basically saying like, I really like the way you are, just kind of stay there. And then I got some EQ, so let's see what that's doing. Yeah, some more 100 hertz, giving the tonality of the drums a little bit more reinforcement, some 3K for that definition, and then, you know, that super top end 12K stuff that we won't be able to hear when we're like 60 anyways, but fuck it. And then the capitator. So whenever I have these on like buses, I try to simulate what I used to get out of consoles, because you could drive it and drive it and drive it, and then it would start to clip them, which is like kind of cool, right? It's like almost like a limiter. And sometimes I'll put limiters, like an L1, on my drum bus or other bus on there to clip it. I'm like looking for that clipping sound because I kind of like it. But you got to be careful because you lose a lot of that punch too. So. Yeah, super subtle, but it does something good. And then the only other drum stuff that they gave me was they recorded, I don't even know what they use, but it sounds so cool, this stuff. So it sounded so cool the way I got it, like I didn't want to fuck with it, right? Because I'm going to mess it up. So all the drums together, here we go. Cool? Was that informative? Yeah, learned? Any questions about the drums and thought process while we're on that topic? I'd love to hear it.